by the roll of dice. Ellen, you rolled a 6, so you're going to go first. Wayne rolled a 5. And so, Ellen, you're up first. Your 2 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Brandom, and I want to thank the Pachyderm for sponsoring this tonight. As most of you know, I have been serving as a representative for part of Cape County for almost 6 years now. During the time I've been in the House, I have worked hard to represent our conservative way of life. I've fought for our common sense values. One of the biggest pieces of legislation passed to prevent taxpayers against welfare fraud was my drug testing bill. That bill required that welfare applicants and recipients have a drug test. I am 100% pro-life, as my voting record will attest. I've worked very hard every time we had any anti-abortion legislation, and I am proud to say that since Republicans have had control of the legislature, the number of abortion clinics has dropped from 10 to 3. I have always stood up for local small businesses as well as big business, and I have a rating of 100% from both the NFIB and the Missouri Chamber of Commerce. As a business owner, I feel like I understand business problems better. My husband and I owned and operated a business in southeast Missouri for 32 years. I met a payroll and I felt the burden of every new tax and regulation. Missouri's greatest challenge is creating jobs. To do that, we are going to have to get rid of unnecessary regulations, cut taxes, and get the government out of our way. When that's done, we need a workforce educated to go to work. So education is a priority, obviously. From my current position on the Missouri Foundation Board for SEMO, thank you.
All right, Wayne, you get 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Great. How do I put 44 years of leadership and achievements into 2 minutes? But I'll try. First of all, I'll let you know that I'm just a common salt-of-the-earth person. Grew up in a blue-collar family, learned work ethic from my father, and went to church, Sunday school to learn the values of good morals and clean living. My dad taught me about work hard and have a big dream. And so I did work hard, and I did have a big dream. And with that big dream, I was fortunate enough to represent the United States Air Force for 25 years as I fought for combat and freedom around the world, spending over 9 years on foreign soil, in charge of some of our most expensive and sensitive reconnaissance assets, the SR-71 and the U-2, flying combat missions in Vietnam, reconnaissance missions in Desert Storm and Desert Shield. In the Air Force, you learn that you learn most of your leadership experience under stressful situations. So up at the Capitol, I don't think it's too hard to work in the political battlefield because at least no one shot at me yet. I'm the only candidate endorsed by the Missouri Right to Life, and I'm also proud to say I'm endorsed by the Concerned Women for America, which is a very pro-life, conservative, constitutional group, the largest women's group in the nation, and also endorsed by the Missouri Nurses Association, which I take great pride in since I'm married to a nurse. My healthcare administration background served me well at the Capitol as I sat on the Healthcare Policy Board as well as the Vice Chairman for Higher Education on Economic Development and also appropriations for Public Safety and Corrections. I will use that experience to serve you well in the Senate. Thank you.
And our first question, we will start with Wayne, since Ellen started first. Wayne, you will have 120 seconds to answer this question, or 2 minutes. And Pete's going to give us our warning on time. Given the current climate of public education, explain what reforms you support that would make the educational system more productive. And you might want to stand to give your answer so they can hear you a little bit better.
Yes. Well, public education is a problem. We've spent about $600 billion a year as a nation to address the public education problem. Every high school dropout that we have throughout the nation costs us about $8 billion a year, so we have a real problem. We've been pouring money into education since 1970. It's tripled, adjusted for inflation, but yet the scores have remained roughly the same. So we have a serious problem. Obviously, just throwing money at education is not going to solve the issue totally. Now, I firmly believe that teachers go to the classroom to do a good job. I don't think there's a single teacher that says, I can't wait to get to the classroom and mess up these little kids so when they go home to their parents, they won't know what to do with them. They have a heart and a passion for education. We need to take care of that because it can be lost easily in the classroom. They have to be taught how to manage the classroom, first of all. When I was with a group of teachers, I called it crisis control. And they said, no, it's classroom management. I said, no, it's crisis control. That's one of the big issues that you have in the public classroom that maybe you don't get in more the parochial or private school atmosphere. Teachers are dedicated, but we haven't been supporting them like we need to with the useful tools that they need and developing and mentoring them. Right now, I think our education system is more of an assembly line where we think everyone's the same. At the end, we give them all the same test, quality control, and that's it. But students are different. A lot of things are happening now in technology where we can teach individually these students through technology and the teacher watching their assessments through a computer that actually upgrades the process for how they're doing on that program. So I think there's a lot of things we can do. We need to move into the 21st century and then get out of the industrial age to improve our education.
All right, Ellen, you need me to repeat the question?
That'd be good.
Given the current climate of public education, explain what reforms you support that would make the educational system more productive. 90 seconds.
I think that we should go ahead and do some of the ideas that have been proposed at the Capitol. And we should implement them in the cities where we have the unaccreditation instead of refusing to do anything because it won't be accepted statewide. We need to concentrate our efforts on the children, these first graders, kindergarten, second graders that are starting off and losing all this time of learning because we don't want to do anything if we can't, or nothing can pass unless it's accepted for the entire state. And I don't think it's always going to work to do it that way. So we need to go back to some of these good ideas we discussed with it to use in the unaccredited districts. And now they're the cities, but we have some provisionally accredited high schools in Pemiscot County. They don't have any fully accredited high school. So we do have to address these problems immediately. And I don't think we can treat every child or every school the same. So we have to be receptive to new ideas. Maybe going back the old-fashioned way, but we can't just say no to everything we try to do. I do think there's tremendous disparity in teacher salaries, and in many of our rural areas we lose a lot of good teachers because we can't afford to pay them enough.
All right, next question. Ellen, you'll be first. Okay. We all know that roads and governmental services are necessary. What system of taxation do you support to pay for these necessary services?
I have not supported any one certain method, and one reason is because we currently have a blue ribbon commission made up of a number of former highway commissioners that are meeting throughout the state, and I think actually meetings being held in Cape maybe the 25th, and they are exploring this in great detail. There are big pros and cons when we talk about toll roads. The figures being thrown out at the Capitol were $100 for a truck to go from Wentzville to Independence. That was a lot different than the toll roads some of us have traveled in Kansas City. I know they're thinking about maybe the tax should be based on percentage instead of a flat tax. There are lots of ideas out there, but you know, times are really tough economically for everybody right now, whether it's the truckers or the drivers. So this may not be the best time to suggest taxes. And I'd like to see what this Blue Ribbon Commission comes up with. And we also have a joint commission from the House and Senate working on this. Thank you.
Wayne, do you want me to repeat the question?
No. Well, this issue is more complicated than it might seem on the surface, because being here in the Midwest, Missouri is a powerhouse for transportation with goods moving across the nation. We're at the center. We've got main interstates 44 and 70 and going north and south, 55. We need to keep those roads well maintained, but we're lacking the money to do that. Part of the problem is you're all buying cars that get better gas mileage, so you don't have to buy as much gas. So shame on you for doing that. You know, some people have suggested a toll road. I'm not in favor of a toll road. I've lived near toll roads in my Air Force career, and all they do is drain your money and put money in someone else's pocket, because the head of the Toll Road Commission is driving a Cadillac while I'm driving a Ford Escort. So I'm not for toll roads, but it's interesting to note that actually I believe the trucking industry did come out and said they might be in favor of that. But a toll road, you'll have people trying to skirt around it. I saw that out on the East Coast in Chicago, and you end up killing businesses if you have a toll road. The business around there, it's going to be like a Route 66. If you ever can find parts of that, you know that the businesses are dried up. So we do have to take care of our infrastructure. We need to prioritize and spend the money accordingly.
Next question. Wayne, you're up first. You get 120 seconds. What will you do to encourage economic activity in Missouri without increasing the cost to taxpayers?
Well, I certainly won't do that, because I signed the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, so that's going to be the last thing that I do, is sign that and then say I'm raising your taxes. In fact, I voted for a bill, against a bill. I have a 100% rating with NFIB, but only a 95% with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, and I'm proud of that 95%, because it was one of those bills stuffed with all sorts of things, like a Christmas stocking, but you find something in there you don't like a piece of coal. That something was a tax increase. That tax increase was going to raise your taxes if you're a farmer, if you're a businessman, if you're an individual that owns an alternate fueled vehicle. And so I voted against that. Job creation is what we need here, and we can do it without raising taxes. In fact, it's usually just the opposite. History and economics has proven time and time again that you lower taxes, you get more economic activity. We also need to reduce regulations. Actually, we passed a bill this year, House Bill 1504, that makes agencies responsible for regulations to go in and review those regulations every 5 years to make sure they're not redundant or overly burdensome. Businesses spend too much time administratively trying to work with these regulations. It affects small businesses a lot more than the bigger businesses. So we have to be a business-friendly state if we want to get economic development coming in here from across the borders, or people within the state saying, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, or I'm going to expand my business.
Do you need me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
Well, I would repeat the statement I made in my opening 2 minutes. I would cut regulations, I'd reduce taxes, and I'd get government out of our way.
All right, next question. Ellen, you're first. Get 120 seconds. Missouri is the only state in the union that does not have state funding source for a statewide E911 system. What legislation would you support to improve the E911 system?
Well, I think we're going to have to hopefully ultimately get some tax moved to the cell phones from the landlines. And we have been trying every year, but there have been such strong opinions opposed to one idea or another that we can't brag that we've had any progress. but we are working on it. But I think we all know that as landlines are given up just for cell phones, then the amount of money collected can't even pay our local 911s where they are. But we are going to have to be willing to share to get 911 in all of our counties. Right now, when we go to Current River, most of us don't realize that when you call 911, you may end up in the sheriff's office in Oklahoma. So we do have to address the issue.
Okay. Wayne, you need me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
Well, not having 911 in the rural areas is certainly a problem and a detriment to safety and health of those peoples in that area. I know one proposal out there is taxing cell phones, which currently aren't being taxed. The issue is that are we taxing you doubly? I have a cell phone. I also have a landline. So now am I paying twice the amount in taxes? If you cancel the tax on my landline and tax my cell phone, it's just a redistribution, and I don't have any trouble with that. My son also has a cell phone, and we're in the same house. So suddenly we have taxes for a landline and 2 cell phones in my house, and you can see how the taxes arise. So I think we have to look at the base of the income that we're getting from those taxes, look what's needed for that, and maybe shift the taxes around. But I don't think just taxing cell phones and leaving these landlines the same is going to solve the problem. It's only going to exacerbate it, because people then probably drop landlines, and then you ended up losing more money. So I think a more equitable distribution would be moving the tax base around so you still have the same amount of money, but they're coming from different sources.
All right, this will be our final and last question. And Wayne, you're up first. Other than the previous topics that we've discussed here this evening, what issues do you see facing the whole 27th Senatorial District? You have 120 seconds, Wayne.
Well, as I mentioned, one of those was job creation, and I think I talked about it in length. That's my #1 priority. I don't think you want to hear me talk about that again. But I think another priority is health care. We have the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act about to come down on us. We don't know which way the Supreme Court is done. I've actually read that health care bill, and it doesn't do much for health care. There's over 100 committees and commissions that are going to be set up. Taxes are going to rise or increase through 24 new different agencies. The words shall, which means you have to do that, appear in there 4,321 times. The word report is going to appear in there 222 times. So in other words, you're going to be reporting on what the shalls should have done, and I don't think reporting equals quality health care. If you look under their Title I in that section, they talk about quality, affordable health care for Americans. And I actually thought that was a pretty good title if I could remove the words quality, affordable, and for all Americans, because none of that is in there. So we're about to have the biggest tax increase put on us. I can tell you that's going to do nothing for job creation in any state, let alone Missouri. So we have to kill Obamacare because it's going to be making us all sick.
Ellen, you have 90 seconds.
Well, I think we've touched on the most important issues facing us. And obviously, the job creation and our economy is #1 to take care of some of these other problems. But there is no question but what if Obamacare passes, Missouri will not have the money to do our part as required by law. So this is our #1 problem we'll face if Obamacare stays in existence. And education is a huge issue for Missouri. There isn't any question about it. But everything takes money, so we all get back to the economy and jobs. And I think I think a good economy will also help with some of the social issues that we're all facing here with the problems for our schools, etc. And I thank you.
All right, Ellen, you opened, and so we're going to let Wayne go first and close, and you get the last word. So Wayne, you get 2 minutes for your closing statement.
I'm running for one reason. My grandchildren. I just had one more on the 6th of June. This country, under Obama administration, is being undermined. Our defense, our health care, our businesses, and I want to make sure that that cancer doesn't creep into Missouri when I'm in the Senate. I don't go up there with any self-interest or preconceived ideas. I'm running to support the Constitution, to keep moral values, honesty, integrity in our government. I'm going up there to serve you, and I need your vote on August 7th. Thank you.
I think you need a leader that shares your common sense values. You need a leader who's had experience balancing a budget and creating jobs. I think one of the best things I do for my constituents is devote 100% of my time and money to doing their work. I intend to continue fighting for our farms, our small businesses, our way of life, our value system. Recently, I hosted 2 farmers' care forums. These groups this group is established to help Missouri be prepared for the next attack from the Humane Society of the United States, which is working hard to do away with animal agriculture and our right to hunt. I intend to continue to stand up for the rights of the unborn. That is one of the reasons I ran. And I also intend to continue to fight to protect our Second Amendment rights. As a family member, as a member of a family where an ultimate sacrifice was made during war, you can rest assured I will always support and protect our veterans. And I would thank you in advance for your support and vote on August 7th. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you all. Let's give them another round of applause.